Welcome to the Forge Truth Podcast, where we are building great men as God defines greatness. Forge is a movement of men with a mission to help all men realize they are the deeply beloved, redeemed sons of the Most High God. I'm your producer, Zach, and I'm here to discuss the issues that affect men the most with Dr. Pete Allenson, lifelong pastor and leader of Forge. Pete, welcome to the show.
Good to be here today. Good to do this special edition with you.
Absolutely. Jason could not join us, unfortunately, today.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to muddle through.
Did he lose his salvation or something?
You know what? It's less severe than that. He had a sprinkler guy coming. So
okay.
So it's not as bad as losing his salvation. But instead of having the bishop here, we do have a special guest that I'm very excited to talk about. Yeah. Pete, why don't you introduce him?
Yes, it's good to have Rod Suku with us today. Roderick is the formal name, right? I love that. And but Rod is a former military man who flew the Black Hawk, had some incredible experiences. And so, Rod, we're glad you're with us and want to hear more of your story, because your story is a story of, like many men, in a unique way. So it's good to have you with us.
Well, wow. I'm glad to be here, Dr. Pete and Zach. Thank you for having me.
You got it. You got it. Tell us, now, where are you from? And tell us a little bit about your background and your family.
Well, I was born in the U.S. Virgin Islands, St. Croix. My parents are from Trinidad. They moved to the Virgin Islands to give us three boys, my brothers, an experience of being raised in the United States, which we did, which we enjoyed. We moved from there in the late 70s to New Jersey, where we have relatives.
Ah, New Jersey.
Yeah.
So are you a Caribbean man or are you a Northeastern man?
I consider myself, my blood is Caribbean, but my heart is in New Jersey.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, because U.S. Virgin Islands is just like 100,000 people, right? It's a small town.
It's a small town.
Yeah.
It's a small island.
Absolutely. Very cool.
And those of us who are here on the continent, I don't think of the U.S. Virgin Islands as U.S., but it is.
It is. It's a territory.
It's a territory, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, who knew? A lot of people knew. I didn't know.
Yeah.
So you were already a citizen when you moved to New Jersey?
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes.
That's great. Okay, so you grew up pretty much in. How old were you when you went to New Jersey?
Oh my goodness, I was a youngin'. I don't even remember how old I was, but I was really young. But growing up in New Jersey, my parents, we were renting at first. Then they were able to buy a house, which was exciting for all of us. Going through school as well, grammar school, high school, and then military career after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What made you decide to join the military?
I wanted to serve my country first and experience what it's like living abroad. I never expected to see what I saw, and I never expected to actually be in combat as well. But that happened as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell us the progression, because your story is interesting. You went into the Army?
I went to the U.S. Army, yes.
U.S. Army, and then tell us about what you did.
Wow. So my basic training was Fort Dix, New Jersey. This was in the cold dead of winter, November to February. And that's an experience. And then Fort Rucker, Alabama for flight training. I never got to choose which aircraft I wanted to fly. Fort Huachuca, Arizona for military intelligence. Then my first duty station was in Germany.
Wow. So New Jersey, Florida, and then eventually Germany. Now you became a Black Hawk mechanic first.
I was I was a Black Hawk mechanic at first. This was in Fort Eustis, Virginia. Just learning the fundamentals of how a helicopter works, from the tail rotor to the windshields, replacing every item on the bird. Then they asked us at graduation, so you know how to fix the aircraft. Do you want to learn how to fly it? Sure, why not?
Good night.
Fort Rucker, Alabama was flight training. Learn on a small bubble aircraft, one of your news choppers. And then from there, I was set on a big bird.
Yeah.
What
Wow.
Is it a bigger challenge to go from having no idea how to fly a helicopter to the bubble helicopter, or to go from the bubble helicopter to the Black Hawk?
Oh my goodness, it was just a cakewalk as long as you get a feel of the control, the weight and balance of the aircraft, and it's like riding a bike. You get all the controls in conjunction with the aircraft itself. You get a feel of, you become one with the aircraft, and it becomes fluid. So I can just maybe hop in a tourist aircraft here in Florida and just give you guys a good air show.
You could.
If you and I were in a Black Hawk helicopter together, and then you passed out, would I be able to land it?
You would be able to land it, yes. Yes, you get a feel of the controls, your pedals, your yaw, which control the tail rotor. You have your collective, which control the lift of the aircraft, and you have your cyclic, the one between your legs, is to control how to turn the aircraft. But yeah.
Wow. See, you're talking Zach's language. He's ready to go up. He's ready to learn how to fly.
No, for my birthday 2 years ago, my wife bought me a 2-hour helicopter lesson. I haven't cashed it in yet, so I haven't taken it yet, but I'm very excited to at least try it out for fun.
Oh, you need to do that,
Yeah.
Zach. So my history with Black Hawk is that I have a buddy that lives up near Fort Rucker, and I did a couple of men's events up there over the last few years, and that's where the computer training is for that now. Now you were trained on a real Black Hawk, not on a simulation Black Hawk.
No, we had simulations as well. A lot of classroom training, fundamentals of flight, simulator training as well. Your graduation is you're flying a real aircraft.
Yeah, right. You got to do that.
Yeah.
Well, when I was in the simulator, I asked him put the Black Hawk down.
Yeah.
Program in, and I crashed that sucker real quick. But so then, how long did you fly the Black Hawk? Tell us a little bit about your work in flying Black Hawks. What did you do?
I was flying in Germany. A lot of it was training flights. We would fly to areas in Germany, mountains, cold. We would fly a bunch of troops as well, 13 packs on board. And we would do training operations, living out in Germany in the cold as well, fixing the aircraft, helping the crew chiefs repair the aircraft, doing test flights as well.
Yeah. So what were some of the interesting parts of what were some missions that you found interesting?
Missions. One mission, we were flying a sling load. A sling load is you can attach to the cargo hook of the aircraft about 8,000 pounds of equipment. This 8,000 pounds consisted of camouflage netting, supplies, MRE foods for the troops, and somehow the other pilot released the cargo hook by accident, dropped that camouflage netting into forestry, and we were tasked to find where this landed, and we couldn't find it because it was camouflaged.
Oh.
So it was a loss.
It was a loss, complete loss. Somebody found it.
Somebody found it. Yeah.
Wow. It's got to be a totally different dynamic having a swinging load that heavy.
Oh yeah, you can feel it in the aircraft. So you can actually feel that load swinging back and forth, and you have to compensate in the air. You have to compensate with your controls. You don't want to swing it all the way around, but it's an experience.
Now, can you carry a full sling load and have a bunch of troops on there?
Yes, you can. You drop the sling load with an awaiting crew member, and then once you drop that sling load, then you drop your troops off on the ground.
That seems I mean, that's dangerous, isn't it?
Yes,
Anytime
it
you
is.
do stuff like that, it's dangerous.
It is.
I was talking to him before the show, and he was trained in like helicopter dogfighting and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
Helicopters dogfight?
Yeah, we do dogfighting.
How does that work?
So we do mock battles.
Yeah.
This was in Germany. Mock air war battles. We would do chases as well. So we're chasing aircraft, which was exciting as well.
That would be I guess so, huh?
We have equipment on board the aircraft where we would install where designated hits on the aircraft itself. The tail rotor hit, the nose or chin bubble hit, the sides of the aircraft would be hit, and it would set off an alarm saying, all right, we took a hit to the tail rotor, let's go ahead and shut the engines off. Like we're going to auto-rotate, which we did.
What's auto-rotating?
Auto-rotating is so your engines are shut off and you're dropping down to the ground like a lawn dart, but you can control the aircraft.
Like a lawn dart.
Yeah. So like if the engines stop working on a helicopter, you don't just drop from the air like a rock.
Right, you coast.
You can kind of coast down.
You really can?
Yeah, you can coast down.
I thought they were like you said, like a lawn dart.
Like
Boom.
a lawn dart, like a lawn dart. The rotors are still turning.
Does that slow you down a little bit?
It slows. It does. But you're keeping the aircraft level. Your controls are centered, which brings the aircraft down to a roll, basically. But you're coming down to a hard landing.
Yeah, it's a hard. Yeah,
it's
any
a hard
way
landing.
you look at it.
Yeah.
You know, in the whole Black Hawk Down scenario,
Yes.
and guys ought to go watch that movie because
Yes.
it's a fascinating movie. I think they lost in the movie. 2 Black Hawks went down. It might have been more, but I know it was just 2 in the movie. Were you on active duty during that time?
That was in 1993 that happened. I was still active duty, but I did hear of the flight crew as well.
Yeah. You didn't know any of those guys?
I didn't know any of those guys.
Yeah.
But I do know of the unit.
Did the movie feel accurate to you?
It was very accurate to me. I mean, that camaraderie of brothers was just, it does hit home. You know, it does bring a tear to my eye when I watch the movie. But it does hit home.
Yeah, and of course at Forge we talk a lot about brotherhood and how we really do need brothers. I think the military does develop that probably better than in a lot of what we do in civilian culture.
Oh, it does. Like I was telling Zach, being at Forge, oh my goodness, it's like being amongst my brothers in the military. You know, around formation, we all come from different parts of the states, and we're sharing stories. And that's what we do at Forge as well. But we all come together as one, as brothers.
Yeah.
And that's what I enjoy, and that's what I get out of being at Forge.
That's good.
There's something unique about certain type of activities and groups, like sports is a big one, and the military, I think, is probably another one, where you form a very unique bond with other people.
Oh, yeah.
What would you say it's like as a Christian in the military, and how has that affected your faith?
It's being close and being one-on-one with my brothers, being in a team. Once we go to formation in the military, we all talk and joke amongst each other until the brass, and until Dr. Pete comes in and he lays the hammer down on the anvil, and everyone hushes and everyone listens and they learn. But that's what I'm doing. I'm taking that same concept into Forge as well with me. I sit and I listen and I absorb the word of what Dr. Pete says.
Well, we do need to joke with each other. We do need to have that camaraderie.
Yes.
And take ourselves more lightly and take the gospel more seriously.
Yes.
And enjoy the brotherhood. I was thinking how we men tend to compete from earliest days. I remember 4th grade was when I was starting to compete with other guys for girls and in sports, right? We wanted the girls to like us, and we wanted to win in the sports. And so sometimes we keep that competition up, and we don't develop the brotherhood. But brothers are absolutely indispensable in war. You got to trust each other.
Oh, yes.
And
Absolutely.
you don't get to choose who's on your team. Like, for instance, on your flight crew, you didn't get to choose who your flight crew was, did you?
No, it was we were assigned a flight crew.
Yeah.
But the crew chief that maintained the aircraft always maintained his aircraft or her aircraft. So we would meet with a different crew chief or a different mechanic on board. But we would still all know each other from being brothers, in a formation in the same unit.
When did you come to faith in Christ? Was that younger or older?
I came to faith in Christ when I was on the battlefield in Desert Storm of '91. I was out there in the sand, and I was with a colleague of mine, one of my sergeants. He introduced me to the Bible, saying, "Hey, have you read the Bible?" I said, "Yes, I have." What do I need to? I wasn't that close yet. But he brought faith in me, saying that you need to read a couple passages and read it with me, which I did. And when he left, I was praying to God. I was saying that, I want to make it out of here alive, and I'm accepting.
Yeah.
And I can hear voices. I can hear them saying, "You'll get through this. Just have faith. Keep the faith." And I did. And I've been going ever since. I've been believing ever since.
Isn't that something? So you were a pilot at that point.
Yes.
So you outranked him. You were a warrant officer.
Yes.
And it was a sergeant.
Yes.
Who boldly talked to you about
yes.
Jesus.
Yes. I guess he saw how I was troubled. I just didn't want to be here anymore. I didn't. This was my first time at combat.
Isn't that something? So let's talk about Desert Storm. Let's talk about combat. What were the conditions that you were under there?
Well, we were under heavy fire. We were under troop. We were also medevac as well, so we were transporting a number of injured soldiers. We also transported deceased as well. So seeing all that, being around all of that, affected me. So I guess that's why the sergeant said, he saw a lot of hurt. But he brought a group of us together and just discussed to get our faith out, to discuss, what is troubling us.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
That's one of the first world events that I was aware of. Desert Storm. I remember that happening. My recollection of it as it was happening was, it was surprisingly how quick we took over. Was that your impression there? It happened very quickly and we kind of
Desert
subdued
Storm.
them.
Okay, refresh my memory. That was you said
91.
91, and
yeah.
that was that when Iraq had invaded Kuwait?
That's when. Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, so we were trying to get Iraq out of Kuwait.
Right.
Yeah.
So we were there to liberate Kuwait, and which we did.
Man, and you're right. It was quick.
Yeah.
It was quick. Wow.
Yeah. After the storm, then we stuck around for Operation Provide Comfort. That's northern Turkey, where we helped the Kurdish families from the mountains and held them in UN coalition tents and housing and food and nourishment. That was an experience as well. That was a humanitarian effort.
What did you guys do there? You flew in stuff for them.
We did. We flew in supplies. We also any of the injured as well. But yeah, mainly supplies. A humanitarian effort.
And that's really high elevation there, right?
Yes,
it
is.
You were flying in the mountains.
Oh yeah, we were flying in the snow-capped mountains in Turkey, down to the hot deserts of Iraq and southern Turkey as well. But yeah,
that's wild.
How high can a Hawk go?
so we can go 17,000 feet. Anything above that, you'll need oxygen tanks as well,
But
which we
can
did
the-
carry on board.
Okay, so they have the oxygen on, but cannot Black Hawk go that high? Can go higher than 17,000 feet?
It can, but you'll stretch the engines out.
Because there's not enough oxygen
right,
for the engines.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, how long did you fly Blackhawks, and then when did you transition? You made a pretty big career transition to being military police, right?
Yeah. So my transition, so flying the Black Hawk, that was from 90. So that was from 88 to 93.
Yeah.
So 93 was when I got out, and then I became military police. This was in upstate New York.
Wow. So why did you make the transition? Was it just a sort of a downsizing of the military at that point? But you stayed in the military, but you moved out of flying a Hawk.
The base shut down or closed down in Germany because of the Bush-Cheney era. So they did some base closures. The Cold War was over. The wall came down. We were there also when the wall came down.
Oh, you got to talk about the
You were
wall.
in Germany when it
We
happened?
were in Germany when the wall came down. We responded, actually, to that. That was November of 1989.
89.
Of 89.
It was?
Yeah, November 89. The wall came down. We never expected it to come down. We didn't think what was happening here. We thought this was it. There was some activity at the border. We thought the Russians are invading. We didn't know what to expect because our mission in Germany was eye on the border, or we were in Western Germany at that time. Our mission was to protect the border. We were about 11 kilometers from the border, so we were border patrol as well.
Yeah. And we had Black Hawks flying Border Patrol?
We had Black Hawks flying Cobra aircraft as well.
Wow.
Apache aircraft as well for defense. But Black Hawks we would carry troops and supplies and but patrolling the area as well.
Absolutely amazing. I didn't know that. That's and I don't think many people understand that or knew that you guys did that.
Yeah, I never expected to see the wall come down.
So were you? You were deployed. You had to go get up in the air and go watch what was going on?
We got up in the air for secure. Well, we got the call at night, and we're thinking, this is it.
Something's happening.
Something's happening.
I mean, and that's what all the Cold War was about, was stopping Russia and Eastern forces from invading Europe.
No, we got on. I got on the air base, and the air base was all lit up. Everyone was out there. We got in formation, and our commander was pacing back and forth. This is it, gentlemen. This is what we're here for. This is what you signed the contract for. We got to our aircraft, our assigned aircraft, with troops on board as well, security troops. And we had a pastor there with last rites.
Wow.
Do you have your wills, living wills signed, ready to go? Yes, we do. We got on board the aircraft. This is a night operation, so we're wearing night vision goggles. Our aircraft is night vision equipped as well, so we have guns out as well, locked and loaded. And then we get to the border. I can see at my 2 o'clock position, 2 miles out, a lot of activity. There's a lot of flashes of lights, and we thought it was muzzle fire.
Yeah, sure.
It comes down to it was folks lighting candles, and they're crossing the border.
Isn't that something?
So we had to land as soon as possible. Once we landed as soon as possible, we got out of the aircraft. There were civilians just coming over to us and hugging us and looking at us like, wow, thank you. Who are you? Just don't touch my aircraft, please.
So that night, you literally didn't know if this is going to be when all the nuclear weapons get launched, or if this is going to be the end of the war. Yeah,
we did not know.
Wow,
it happened just like that. And the next day, the next morning, it was just as business as usual.
Yeah. But then it was soon after that, but they started carving up parts of the wall, and the wall actually started coming down.
Right.
But the wall wasn't coming down when people were climbing over the wall?
They were climbing over the wall. They were breaking through fences. Mind you, also, there were mines.
Oh, that's true.
That were set up. They were, they were in the ground, mines as well, but I guess they knew where they were. But
did you take a piece of the wall?
I did not.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah.
What a historic time.
Oh, yeah.
Really in American history, military history and American history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I felt like, wow, I've been through, watching the wall come down, responding to that. Desert Storm of '91. Oh my goodness. And Operation Provide Comfort.
Yeah.
Once I hit home, stateside, military police, and then 9/11. I was there for that as well.
Yeah.
So a lot of historic moments.
Yes.
Yeah, you were in New York during 9/11.
During 9/11,
Yeah.
I was on my way to work, and I lived in Jersey at the time, and I would take the train to go into the World Trade Center to capture my connecting train to New York, where I worked at ABC Television. But that morning, I did go into the World Trade Center. The escalators had stopped working. All of a sudden, we didn't know what was happening. I could smell an acrid, putrid smell in the train station. This is below ground in World Trade Center. We didn't know what was going on. I'm just climbing the stairs to get outside, and the place is just inundated with people, and you can smell jet fuel and a lot of smoke as well. So we're thinking there was a fire. But no, I'm hearing words of, no, that plane had hit the aircraft. We're thinking something small. Police around there were saying, don't look up. There was a lot of debris flying around. But of course I looked up, and there was a lot of stuff flying around. I was able to catch my other connecting train from another train station. I got to the ABC building, the green room, and I watched the plane hit the tower.
Whoa.
The second plane hit the tower.
Whoa.
And I was like, I was just there.
Yeah.
I was just there.
You were just underneath that whole area.
Yeah.
Okay, so you were there when the Berlin Wall fell. And when 9/11 happened, you were at the World Trade Center.
Yes.
So I guess if you want to see some historic events, just follow you around.
Yeah. I'm hanging out with him.
Yeah.
See what's coming next, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man.
You mentioned you worked for ABC.
Yes.
And then later you worked for NBC, right?
Yes.
That's where you work now?
That's where I work
Can you
now.
tell us a little bit about that?
So at ABC Television, we started a help desk, a computer support system there at the help desk. So I went from helicopters to military police to computers. But that's an experience too for me. But yeah, ABC Television, working support. I worked shoulder to shoulder with Hugh Downs, Barbara Walters at the time, Peter Jennings, working with them. So I know that part of the system, the broadcast system. Then Disney purchased ABC in 2000, which brought me to Florida, and I worked with their support desk. Lost a job because I worked there for about 30 years.
Yeah.
Lost a job with Disney. They outsourced my position to Manila. Then I found a position with NBC, Peacock, delivering live streaming media content to customers.
What was that like, losing a job after 30 years?
So that was,
That's
oh my
crazy.
goodness, it was crazy. I was lost. I didn't know what to do. I'm like, now what am I going to do? I have to write a resume now. I have to go on interviews now. Oh my goodness, how do I do that? It's been so long since I've, been out of doing that. So I had to start all over again. I thought I was at a loss. My support system was my wife, Kimberly, who works at the school here. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't have any guidance. But I did go to church. I did have that support system around me. And one of my, Kimberly's best friend, Gigi, she told me about Forge. It's a men's group. Go there and find your faith, get your faith back, which I did. I went my first time going to Forge, and I'm always going to Forge. I enjoy going to Forge. I enjoy sharing as well at the round table. Hearing Dr. Pete, hearing you, it just brought light back into my life. It brought my faith back and my strength as well.
That's great. Well, that is even in the midst of our trials, tribulations, sufferings, difficulties, and we men have a lot of them.
Yeah.
We need to be with other brothers
Yes.
around the gospel, and so we're glad that you're with us and that you made it through that time. God had a plan for you. All things really do work together for good to those who love God and are called according to His purpose.
Yeah.
And we will go through many, many trials. Our lives are not always going to be as interesting as Rod's has been, huh?
Right.
Zach?
It's a blessing and a curse to live through interesting times.
Yeah.
But it certainly shapes us, and I'm sure it's shaped you quite a bit.
Oh my goodness, it has. The experiences that I've been through and I've had in my life up to this point, I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's like it feels like a movie sometimes with the Black Hawk, with the hands on the controls.
Yeah.
From fixing the aircraft to making it fly to flying it, and then military police, and then just seeing a lot of stuff just go by me.
Right.
It's like getting lost in translation sometimes.
There's so much.
Yeah.
You were talking about one time about I think it was Desert Storm where you were shot. You were under fire.
We were under fire.
Yeah.
Our aircraft did go down. We were hitting in the tail rotor. The aircraft did take a tumble. We did lose the one on board.
Really?
We got out of the aircraft.
One of your crew members was shot.
One of our passengers were shot. He was not buckled in.
Okay.
So he flew out of the aircraft.
No
We had
kidding.
doors open at the time.
Yeah.
He flew out of the aircraft. We did find him. But yeah, I got shot in the forearm. We were protecting also General Shalikashvili. When the aircraft went down, we took a lot of the secure equipment out, and they torched the aircraft. So that was an experience as well.
Yeah. So you crashed a hawk, and not on purpose, but you didn't crash it. You had to land it, and when that tail rotor goes,
the tail rotor goes, a
helicopter it can't stay up.
That's right. The hydraulics are shot,
Yeah.
and you really can't control it anymore.
So and you had to take the sensitive equipment out.
That's right.
But was the general with you when that happened?
Yes, he was with us as well.
Wow.
He got out of the aircraft, and he had his hand on his weapon, and he was also firing off some rounds as well.
Isn't that something? So
Yeah.
you had some ground troops that were coming after you.
Yeah.
And you got shot in the forearm.
Got shot in the forearm.
Still got the bullet? You got the scar still?
No, I got the scar.
Okay, and you got the Purple Heart?
Purple Heart, and I got this. I had the experience and the story to tell. That was an exciting time as well.
Yeah.
The backup aircraft came in. I remember seeing that. It was like, wow, our Savior is here. It came on board, grabbed me, put me in a gurney as well, and I watched my aircraft just being torched.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
That's wild.
What a life, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think we've scratched the surface on some of the experiences you've had, but I really appreciate you coming in and sharing that with us.
Thank you.
Super interesting stories, and I think that was awesome. So I want to thank everyone at home for listening to this episode of the Forge Truth Podcast. If you have any questions or comments, you want to engage with what we talked about today, you can email us at forge@forgetruth.com. If you're interested in learning more about the Forge movement, you can check out our website at forgetruth.com. And Pete, why don't you lay down a challenge for our men today?
Oh, Rod, thanks for coming in. And, I think to all of our men, I would say we're not all going to have as exciting a life maybe as Rod has had. But there's a great adventure in following Jesus Christ. And so I call all men who are listening to this to understand that God loves you, has an incredible plan for your life. Allow him to work through the trials, through the difficulties, through the opportunities, to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. There is a great adventure in following King Jesus. Follow him. And Rod, thank you for following him as well. Join us at Forge Truth Podcast.